What's going on, guys? It's Jacob from Topside MMA, and I'm giving you my UFC 318 recap. So on the night, we had a decent night. First off, we had Carly Judice versus Nicole Cagliari. We got a little hosed on this one. I liked the over 2.5. It was so damn close. We were just about a minute off. It was super close. I was sitting there watching it like, oh my god. Especially because Cagliari got knocked out by a liver shot too. So it wasn't like she got knocked out cold. It was just she kind of crumpled up and fell under the pressure. It's tough to see that. It was super close. I don't think the plus 7.5 would have hit either way. It was a pretty clear 30-27 if it did go to the scorecards. So I was not mad about that one because that wasn't even close. But over 2.5, I was like, damn, that was a close bet. Kind of got unlucky on that one. Same with the Jackson McVeigh fight too and Bruno Ferreira. Jackson McVeigh goes for a takedown, and he's so close to getting it, but right as they get to the ground, boom, he gets reversed, he gets swept. They actually gave Bruno Ferreira the takedown on the stat line for that, so I was like, damn, man, it was so damn close. Because I figured Jackson McVeigh, his only way that he really had a chance in this was on the ground, because the striking wasn't going to be close. Bruno Ferreira is going to be more accurate, he's going to have more power, so I thought, all right, Jackson McVeigh, his best chance is he's so much bigger than Bruno Ferreira. He could, if he's going to go for offensive wrestling and offensive grappling, if he can land the takedown, he could have some success. He could draw it out. And I figured, all right, if Jackson McVeigh can get a dominant position on the ground, he can land some shots. He can land some elbows. He could get something going to get over that 13.5 line. And same with Bruno Ferreira. I figured if they keep this on the feet, if they do, then I figured, we haven't seen Jackson McVeigh's chin tested yet. We don't know if he's just going to get knocked out with one fight or with one punch. Because we've seen when Bruno Ferreira goes a little bit longer against other guys like Abus, like we saw, that like he can land, he can get over that strike line. The fact that we haven't seen Jackson McVeigh's chin tested yet, I figured it was worth a shot, just to see, all right, maybe these guys can go a little bit longer than we thought they could. But obviously, Jackson McVeigh's scrambling abilities were not good. He gets reversed. Bruno Ferreira gets on top. Game over. It was so tough, especially because Jackson McVeigh had the takedown and he lost it last second. It was so frustrating, but it is what it is. He got unlucky on the first two. Then moving on, this is when we got this is where we start to get some flow going. We had Ryan Spann to win by submission and KO in round one, kind of like a hedge, because I knew that Lucas Bresky was so chinny that, there's a chance Ryan Spann could get the knockout. Ryan Spann likes to go for submissions more than knockouts. We saw if he knocks someone, he can easily wrap up a submission once they're kind of wobbled, like we saw he did against OSP. But the thing is I wanted to hedge it because I didn't want to go all into one and get screwed if the other hit or the other lost, especially for these odds too. That's why I had the plus 300 on the round one knockout prop, just because he was chinny for 1 unit. And I also had the Ryan Spann via sub in round one at plus 425 with half a unit. So that was really nice. That brought back 2.13 units on that play. I also had Ryan Spann in round 1 or 2. 1 unit on that at minus 125, which was a nice hit. And I also had Ryan Spann round 1 only money line. I thought that was one of my best bets of the night, honestly, because minus 295, we know Ryan Spann has a good chin. We saw that he can last. He went against Waldo for the first round. He wasn't in any real danger. And the reason why he gets knocked out is just because he gasses out and he gets tired in the second round. But in the first round, he's dangerous and he's durable. He can last in the first round. So I thought that was a really good bet, especially at minus 295, especially considering Lucas Bresky has no chin, and not all of them, but most of his losses are, majority of them, he's getting finished in the first round. So I thought that was a really good bet. That hit. And next fight, we got Jimmy Crute versus Marcin Prachnio. This was another huge line for us. Jimmy Crute via round one submission at plus 400 was absolutely insane. I told you guys in my last video I was going to have money on this by the sub prop too, and the KO prop was more of a hedge. Same thing like with Ryan Spann. We know Jimmy Crute is a black belt in BJJ going against Marcin Prachnio, who's a blue belt in BJJ. So what does that tell you? Jimmy Crute should be able to get the damn submission. He couldn't get it against Rodolfo Bellato because Bellato is a lifelong BJJ practitioner who's a black belt himself too. That obviously made sense he couldn't get the sub against him. But against a guy like Marcin Prachnio, he got subbed. All of his recent losses have been subbed. He's been subbed by guys like Bukakis, who's a damn kickboxer, and he's a blue belt going against Jimmy Crute, who actually is dangerous on the ground. That was an easy line at plus 400 for the round one. I got them both. And like I said, the KO 1 or 2 was a hedge prop too, because Jimmy Crute, if this did go a little bit longer than the first or second round, I didn't see him having that explosive knockout power like he would have in the first or second round, especially because Marcin Prachnio, he had more of his losses by knockout than sub at that point. So it was a good hedge, but obviously it missed because the sub hit. But we came away from the Jimmy Crute sub lines up 2 units on the first play and up 1.65 units, so 3.65 total on this play. It was a huge bounce back for us after the first 2 fights. Same with the Ryan Spann one. Those were the biggest spots we hit all night. And then from there, we had a tough run. Atier Gautier versus Robert Valentin. I had a little bit of a prop, a little sprinkle I told you guys in the last video on Valentin by sub, just because that was his only real chance to win. At plus 1100, I thought it was good odds. Actually, it was funny, that line did tighten a lot towards the fight. It went from plus 1100 to, I think, plus 750 or plus 800 it closed at. So I had a little bit of confidence, like, oh, okay, maybe people are seeing this line too. That did not happen. Valentin looked the worst I've ever seen from him. It looked like he genuinely was throwing the fight. I don't know what the hell was going through his brain. It made it seem like he was trying too hard to be entertaining. He didn't want to seem like a grappler, considering his last 2 fights he got dominated in the wrestling. But that's the thing, though. It's like the wrestling, obviously he struggles in, but we know that he is either a brown belt or a black belt now at this point in a judo. So I figured he could land throws against Gautier, who's primarily a striker, who's young, only 23 years old. He doesn't have that experience with the judo, and that was his big advantage. And we saw when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, Robert Valentin, he got rocked by the Irish dude couple years back. I forget his name exactly, but he gets rocked. And what does he do? He goes in, gets under, shoots for a takedown, lands it, gets a submission. I thought this could be the exact same thing. I could see Gautier absolutely rocking him on the feet. He shoots in for a takedown. Gautier doesn't have the experience with the wrestling to really be able to control Valentin's quick movements, and Valentin could wrap up an early submission really quick. That did not happen. He got rocked. He's on wobbly feet, and he's enticing him, saying, like, come forward, give me more, when he's getting rocked back and forth. I thought he was going to get knocked out the first time he got wobbled. He kept doing the same dumb shit over and over again, enticing him on. I don't know what he was thinking. He's absolute moron. The dumbest fight IQ I've ever seen in my life. You know that your only chance was to go for a judo throw. That's your bread and butter. Try and get inside, get a clinch, and throw him down. Get the trips going. What does he do? He says, let's stand and bang. It's dumbest performance I've ever seen. Yeah, he's got to be on the ban list after that. So we had over 0.5 takedowns. That didn't hit. Over 13.5 total significant strikes. That didn't hit. That was tough to see. But, I knew going into that it was super risky, and I just wanted to take the shot because I figured that was his best way to win. But got unlucky, or not even unlucky. He screwed that one. That should not have even come close. But at the same time, he did that to himself. He deserved that. Then moving on, we got the main event, or the main card. This is where a lot of people struggled. A lot of people lost the most money on this, and that's what I said in the last video. I have pretty much all the money tied up in the early prelims. And the prelims, I'm not putting a whole lot on the main card because I know it was a lot of trap lines, a lot of risky lines. And I said that in my last video if you guys watched it. So that's why I kept it light. I had Kevin Holland and Dan Ige money line. That was my only real big parlay of this whole event. I thought they were both better. They both should be able to go in there. I thought about including Daniel Zellhuber in those first two, but it was just the line was completely shot. The first parlay you can see down here, the Kevin Holland and Dan Ige money line, I got that earlier in the week placed. So Kevin Holland was a minus 395 at that point. And Dan Ige was a minus 181, I think, at that point. So that line, that's why this was a lot close or tighter odds than it would have been by the time the fight started. But this one I placed later on, the Dan Ige plus 3.5 alternate spread and Kevin Holland minus 3.5. Either way, they both lost. Super tough to see. Kevin Holland completely threw. He sold that. I can't believe D-Rod won. That was the really shitty performance to watch from Kevin Holland. I don't know what he was doing out there. Really stupid. He wanted to stand and bang the whole time. He should have gone for a more aggressive game on the ground. He could have had submissions. He had opportunities. He could have learned if Neil Magny can submit you, Kevin Holland, you probably could have done the same thing. I don't know how the hell he didn't do it. D-Rod rocked him on the feet, I think, in the second. D-Rod deserved that win, especially at the age too. If Kevin Holland can't finish a 38-year-old D-Rod, that's on Kevin Holland, so it's hard to feel bad for him there. Dan Ige, it was a close fight. I've never seen him kind of wobbly like that. It was tough to see. Close fight. Pitbull's boring. I don't want to see any more Pitbull. Get him out of here. I'm so done with him. Especially after that Yair fight too. I'm over him. Shout out to Dan Ige. Still love Dan Ige. He's the man. Tough fight, tough break, and yeah, the main parlay too, I called it what could go wrong parlay. I talked about in the last video too. That unfortunately didn't hit. Ryan Spann, Jimmy Crute, Islam Dulatov, those guys cashed. But yeah, Zellhuber and Holland did not end up winning their fights, obviously. So yeah, tough line, tough break. But we still came up 0.964 units on the day, so on the card. So overall, it was actually decent. It was a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. I've seen a lot of the community got absolutely rinsed with Kevin Holland this week. And, you know, it's really tough to see because Kevin Holland should have done a lot better, especially the guys who got in early on him this week at that minus 395 line. Actually was a lot of good value, in my opinion. So I don't know what Kevin Holland was doing. I don't know what's next for him and who he's going to fight next. Shout out to D-Rod. You know, he did his thing. Respect to him. Same with Michael Johnson, too. Respect to him. You know, he came out there and banged. He made Zellhuber look like a rookie or like an amateur, because I know he's young, but at the same time, Zellhuber was a confident pick for me. You know, it's tough to see him go out there and get starched like that by Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson really styled on him. So shout out to those guys. But anyway, yep, it was a good week for us. You know, it was especially seeing a lot of the community getting really rinsed on this card. It sucks to see that for the other guys out there. But, you know, we had a good week, just up 1 unit just about. And yeah, profits. So we got to be happy there. But either way, we got to treat every week the same, win or lose. You know, you just got to keep on pushing. So coming back this coming week for the next card, I'm going to be giving you guys breakdowns, same videos like before, confidence rankings. I'm going to give betting breakdown videos. I'm going to give my full card breakdown. So have a ton of stuff coming this next week. So make sure you guys stick around, like and subscribe for all of that stuff. And yeah, thank you guys so much for all the recent support lately. It's been awesome. To everyone who's like leaving nice comments and stuff, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to get some more videos out for you guys, hopefully give you guys some value that you guys can enjoy. So yeah, thank you guys so much once again for watching. It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA. Stick around for my videos coming out later this week on this next event. And yeah, I'll see you guys then. Peace.